Morning, everybody. It is 8:10 a.m. It is November 11th. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday we had the follow through that was expected from that hammer candle on Friday's close. So we pushed up. We had an initial pullback that was bought up. Unfortunately, I was long right at that area. I saw that there was significant buying coming in. We couldn't go lower. And then, of course, I got stopped and I just mistimed it. And then the market proceeded to rip. Right? I mean, not rip, but like basically probably had some short covering, and that's typical. Not particularly that, but a follow through day after that Friday close, you generally go higher, and a lot of the stocks that were weak got picked up. Right? Usually, the weakest stocks on that downturn get the most love on the reversal, and that's what happened. Okay, now this morning overvaluations and stuff was coming back into the fold a little bit. You had Rigetti, Content Computing, and you had CoreWeave not report the best earnings. So a couple of those like Quantum and stocks like that, those high flyers, are negative this morning. Okay, and also SoftBank sold all of its NVDA shares, which is I think it was like 1.5 billion dollars. So NVIDIA is down like 1.73% as I'm speaking. So this is where the rubber meets the road now, really, because now you had the down day on Friday and a nice reversal. Now you had the follow through day. And yesterday, we're talking about the SPY around, let's just call it 680 was a key like resistance level. And you did close um, above it, but now we're right on it. It's really, what are we going to do there at this level? Okay, it's kind of a prior 3 day balance. And yesterday we went into it a little bit, and now like we're getting rejected there. So, like I said, I think this market is going to range a little bit. I mean, I don't know, obviously, but I have to go on what like so far the reversal day on Friday, the follow through day yesterday, right? And the internals weren't that strong. Actually, were weak. But then you had kind of a flip, and then the internals was built, and that's what I wrote in my Discord. I was like, this doesn't really have the strength at like I would say like at like 1240. I was like, the internals are not super strong, but I'm like, it can continue moving higher if internals keep building stronger and stronger and stronger, and then that's what it did. The internals just kept building and building and building and building, and that's why we were able to go higher, right? That's really what's going on. Now you got some juice from the market shutdown, possibly coming to an end, right? And like I said, that's like an juice adrenaline high for the markets. It doesn't really matter in the big scope, but it can juice the market, right? You get the initial rush from the news. Just like when it first came out, the markets gapped down, but then it was bought right back up like it didn't matter. This is exactly what's going to happen. It's just a little juice, sugar high. That's all it is, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Now, I understand it's affecting some flights and stuff like that, but it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Um, but like I said, you can get little sugar rushes from it, right? So let's let's get into it. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and volume profile to find structure in the markets. Along supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. That's the way I come up with game plans. Also use Anchor VWAPs, market internals, and bookmap for my futures executions and the weekly expected move. That's a free indicator that I have on my Discord for free. Okay. Hopefully every morning you join me I do this every morning, give you the market story, give you why the market's doing what it's doing, followed by technical analysis. All right. And then I give you short and long trade scenarios in the ES and the NASDAQ futures. All right. If you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Now, like I said yesterday, I did have that trade, and it looked great. I can show you the trade here. I was in it at 6,800. There was a lot of buying coming in, and I knew it wasn't going to be the easiest to get through this part right here. And then it came back and stopped me. And then that was the sweep, really, because it took out this low very slightly, and then that was the low. And then I had to watch it like rip up and be like, great. I just mistimed it. I was waiting to re-enter, but I just mistimed it. And like I said, I'm not getting in this current regime or this current market, like the conditions we're in, I'm not getting those pullbacks that I normally get. I'm just not. They're not coming. They literally just rip and don't really retest too much. Not like prior markets where you get that push up, you retest, and you go high. It's really not doing that much. You don't have that many chances to do it. So that's just what's going on. Okay. Now let's get into futures watch list here. Let's move on here. VIX is up 1.70%. Right at 17.9. Silver is getting more. The metals are still getting more love. All right, up 1.24. Silver. Crude up 0.70. Gold up 0.62. Dow's up 0.07. 30-year bonds are pretty much flat. Dollar is pretty much flat. Russell's down 0.16. 10-year yields down 0.17. ES down 0.19. Nasdaq's down 0.37. Ethereum down 0.7. And Bitcoin is down 1.42%. So Bitcoin's kind of like in this, keeps hitting that 200-day moving average. We'll see. We'll have to see what happens there. Mag 7. All right, we got Apple up 0.29, Berkshire Hathaway up 0.20, and then we have a bunch of laggards here. Let's just go into you got AMD down 0.57, Tesla down 0.84, Meta's down 1%, 1.07%. Coinbase, with Bitcoin being down 1.46. NVDA down 1.70, with SoftBank selling all of its shares. Moving on to top sectors here. Looks like we got the miners up, NEM up 0.84, and the laggard is Oracle. Oracle keeps falling. And Palantir down 1.22%. We go to a little granular list here. Let's just do that here. Okay, I think this got bought out, this company, because it's just staying at this. Lucid looks like it's, let's see here. Lucid, there's really not much up here. Wow. There's not even a 1%. Interesting. Okay, let's go to the laggards here. CRWV, that's one of the earners, one of the tied to NVIDIA. They did not have the best earnings. They're down 8.33%. Like I said, some of those high flyers are all down. All right. AI stock down 3.17. Oklo, that reports earnings after the close today. That's nuclear, down 2.65. Mara, Tilray, ARM. Okay, I have a different list that shows more of these high flyers. All right, let's go to that list here. Right here. So let's look at the laggards here. CoreWeave, Rigetti, Oklo, APLD, Bitcoin, MicroStrategy, right? So a couple of those. All right. Now moving on to sectors, and you probably guessed here. Look, semiconductors are the weakest. Energy's leading, and you got XLK and semis are the weakest today, which is not shocking. It's not shocking at all. It's really setting up for, we're inside yesterday's session. We're setting up for maybe a day of balance. Okay? We just came all the way down and all the way up, right? Maybe a little balance today. We'll have to see. We're going to move on to the economic calendar, which is not much to talk about at all, especially with government shutdowns. Okay? Let's see here, 8:15. Interesting. Why is that on there? Okay, I guess it refreshed. So, what do we have today? ADP employment change. I guess that's not coming out. 10:25 p.m. Fed bar. There's nothing today. Now, this is what I wanted to mention. Let's look at the relative volume today. Very poor. 66%, 90% in Nasdaq. Reason for this: it's Veterans Day. Banks are closed. Banks are closed. So I'm going to expect not the best volatility, not the best tempo today. I'm hoping there's something there, but I'm getting ready for a very poor trading session. It might not be, but we're inside yesterday. The volume is horrible because banks are closed. Okay, let's look at the schedule here. What do we have on today? We Trump at Veterans Day ceremony at 11 a.m. There's nothing else here. Let's just go over earnings. I forgot to do that yesterday. Bulk of the big boys are done. But yesterday, Rigetti reported, CoreWeave reported, Big Bear AI reported, Rocket Labs, ASTS, Wolf Plug, Occidental Petroleum. This morning, Nebius reported. Who else here that I recognize? That's really it. Today after the close, Beyond Meat, Oklo, Lightpath. Yeah, that's really it. Tomorrow before the open, Circle, another one of those high flyers. ON. All right, that's about it. Let's move on. All right, let's look at some stock news here. NVDA stocks fell 1.4 after Japanese tech investment giant SoftBank announced that it sold its entire stake in artificial intelligence darling for $5.83 billion. CoreWeave stock dropped 9.8 after AI cloud services firm flagged a delay at third-party data center party, resulting in a reduction in its full-year revenue. AMD stock fell 0.2 with the chipmaker expected to outline its company plans for its artificial intelligence chips and systems businesses at the financial analyst day later in the session. Rocket Lab stock surged 9.8 if their spatial and systems company reported better than expected earnings. Paramount Skydance stock rose 4.9 after its entertainment company said it is looking to cut an additional $1 billion in savings. All right. Rigetti Computing stock dropped 3.4 after the quantum computing company reported third quarter ran below estimates. Moving on here. A&B expected to outline plans for AI chip business at Analyst Day. Google to invest around $6 billion in Germany. Let's see here. CoreWeave Jeffrey cuts target price to 155 from 180. And yeah. All right. I think we're ready for some internals. Let's do the internals update. Recap, I'm sorry. All right. So, very clearly here, this little early sell-off had some decent weakness here, but tech actually was not that weak at this point. And we came into a demand zone in both the NASDAQ and the ES. And I was watching and watching and watching, and that's where the buying came in. Let me see if I can show you the buying that came in at the 58s, 6800s. And it's not really going to show you here because it's relative now. I'd have to replay the book map. So anyway, that's the internal recap. You can see we went down and then we crossed at about 12:45, and then it was just off to the races here. It was just short covering, and then it just bled up. All right, everything pretty much green. There's nothing to, everything's green like that. You're just eventually just going to move up, and that's what we did. Okay. Let's go to dailies. So you can see we breached this downtrend line right here. Boop. Right? So now, if we look at this chart, right? This is that 680 right here. Notice that there's a resistance and a support here, right here. The market kind of pushed through that yesterday. We are right below, we're at 679.37 right now. Okay, so we are right here. We're in the middle of yesterday. Okay, there's Friday's close. Now check this out. The expected move for this week to the upside is 688. A lot of stocks, because we move so much, like Eli Lilly already hit its expected move to the upside. Okay, so this consolidation, the bottom of this little 3-day balance, is where we're having problems. Also the resistance here, so it's a clear pivot line, 680. 680 determines to me if we're going to go higher or we're going to reject. Okay, let's look at futures. Okay, so you can see that level around about 68, 61. Okay, you can see like a very clear confluence high here with the overnights, yesterday's highs. We'll look into that later, but this is 24-hour candles basically. Okay, so does this just become a swing high and we start to fall back? I don't know. I really don't know. Okay, moving on to Qs. You can see the Qs. We broke this downtrend line. Okay, but look what the Qs did. Okay, you have this big time resistance here. You couldn't take out right here, this 626s yesterday. See, we only came into a prior, this is a prior weekly low. You see how we got resistance there? And you have this kind of two double top daily lows here. Similar to the the SPY, right? You had this little balance area that was support, acted as resistance here. And we haven't reached that point yet. Okay, we haven't reached it yet. So yesterday, look what we did. Pulled right back to the 20-day moving average. That's why kind of also I got long yesterday. The spot, I mean, let's go back to the spot real quick. I just want to see, I didn't go over that. Yeah, see, it pulled back basically the 20-day simple moving average as well. That's why I thought, okay, this is the pullback. And like I said, I just mistimed it. Okay, where's the Qs now? We are at 619.84, 619.84, 619.84, right here. So you're a little lower. Yeah, see, it's breaking the overnight lows right now as we're speaking. So we're going lower here. Okay, that's not helping. NVIDIA's down. Palantir's down. Oracle's down. That's not going to help the Qs. Okay, let's go to futures. Now look at that resistance there in futures. Let's say it's about 25772s. That's a big time resistance. Now, what could you say as far as a pattern? Well, this looks like an inverse head and shoulders right here, right? Your neckline's here. You got a shoulder, you got your head, you got your shoulder. Well, all we need to do maybe today is pull back, and then you can rip up through that resistance. Right? Like I said, I'm not a big pattern guy, but obviously you can't deny that pattern right now. Okay, pulling back to the 20-day simple moving average, but this is definitely a big time resistance. Okay, that's your futures. Okay, now if we go over the New York Stock Exchange, let's see how that looked yesterday. Remember, that's just like over 2,500 stocks. Let's just see how that looked yesterday. So they had a decent day. That was a nice day. All right, now looks like the RSP, that's the equal weight. That's how I base on my internals. They came down and they pushed up. Nice little hammer, right? Kind of like above all of these candles, right? Interesting. And then finally, we'll end off with a little bit of a breath. The 50-day moving average, percentage of stocks over the 50-day moving average, 45%. We were down here, 34. Remember, the overall breath was not that good. So then it improved. So that's our overall breath. Moving on to the hourly charts. Okay. Moving on to the hourly charts now. Couple key things here. Okay. All right, so we broke this downtrend. That's key. We broke it right there. Okay. We also broke the all-time anchored VWAP from this all-time highs right here. We also broke that at the same time we broke the trend line, and that was the move up. That was the move up. Okay. I did throw an anchored VWAP from this low. We haven't touched that yet, but it's hanging out right around here. Okay. Yesterday, very important. This is also why I got long in futures. And basically, I probably could have had a wider stop on my futures trade. That probably would have been the smartest thing. We came right down to the month-to-date anchor view up to the tick. That was what I saw, and I was like, okay, we should probably move higher because we finally got that. Look, what we did was he opened up and slammed through here, broke those lows, broke this little pack, and I was like, all right, this is probably going to get bought up here, and that's what happened. Okay, that's what happened. Okay, now look, just like I was showing you guys before in futures, it's the same thing. As far as structure goes, you can see this area right here. These support levels became resistance here and resistance again, right? It's like the 680 in the SPY. Okay. Our most traded price of the week is around 68.57. That's a key level. That's the most traded price of the rolling week now. And then we're back under it. See? But today, like I said, look how small these candles are. This is the relative volume that's slower today because of Veterans Day. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of trading we're going to get today. I really don't know. Okay. This is the week to date anchor VWAP right here. That's around 68.29. Okay. We could very well, if there's a little bit of weakness, very well come back to here and maybe even go to 67.75. That's the most traded price of the month. And that would really put us just back into balance and to really not know what to do. Right? So that's what I'm looking for. Anytime you take out this, if you take this out, the 66.80s, right? Or sorry, 68.60s right here. If you take that out, you have a lot of overhead supply. Look at all that overhead supply. That's a lot of overhead supply here. But that's going to have to try to make it through here, right? If you cannot, we do one of these, that could move us back to the most traded price of the month. All right, that's your ES. Let's go to NASDAQ. Very similar. Very similar. Well, not very similar, but okay. You can see we also broke the downtrend yesterday, right here. Okay. Actually broke the month-to-date anchor view up yesterday and then got bought up. But see, it had this to deal with. Remember I talked about yesterday, I said I think we're going to push up. There wasn't a good enough structure here. And just like I said, right? I said this is not structure and it should get cleaned up. And look what it did. Right up to this supply. And that was the end of this poor structure. It's exactly what it did. And then now look, right? It stinks when you can call something like that and then, what do I have to show for it? Not really much. Okay. Now, well, I mean, I had a long on the ES, it just didn't get timed right? And that's just trading. Anchor view up from the lows right there, all-time high anchor view. We are back below the anchor view up from the all-time highs. And you notice that these are starting to flatten out, these VWAPs. That's probably telling us we might balance today. Take a breather. And with the, the low volume. So the level here is 25650. That's your most traded price of the week. That actually is the all-time high anchored V up as well. So I'm going to judge what the market does with this level. Do we take it out and then we can try to break these highs to move up, maybe try to fill this gap? I don't think this happens today. But or we try to make it above, fail, retest it, and then we start to go and try to fill this gap. Don't know. Okay. What I think happened, not what I think happened, what I know happened is that's why I didn't like. I mean, I could probably put a trade when we were down here in retrospect, but now since we just did this and came to a key area, probably some shorts took some profits. That might even exacerbate it when we open up today. People who in options, because you can't do anything in options until the market opens, maybe take some further profits. Right? We did come a very long way. And the initial weakness was bought up in semis, and now that's being given back a little bit. Being given back a little bit. So really, let's see what happens now. Okay, that's your hourly charts. Let's move on to the market profile, volume profile. And let's see what the analysis that I come up with live is going to tell us here. All right, like I said, today, Veterans Day, banks are closed. Not sure what can I expect from this market as far as volume. Maybe an hour of trading. That might even be not great. Okay. So right here, let's look at this together. We have some levels to talk about. All right, let's just get right into the levels. All right, right off the bat. Okay, 68, 65s to 67s with supply here. That is a key level. Remember, it's the bottom of the balance over to here. There's a balance area over. I showed you guys before why that we got resistance there. All right, so that's a breakout level. Okay. Also have here the close from yesterday, overnight highs, yesterday's highs, obviously. Most traded price of the week. We're underneath it. Okay. That is not going to be easy to just cut through it, especially since we just came from so far down. Like I said, I think we could give back some of these gains today, unless something comes out where we can really push. There's so much overhead supply here. Like I said, it's going to be tough sledding above us for right now. Okay. Now, what do we have here? Down here, we have value area low from yesterday. I'm sorry. Value area high from yesterday. Right there. Okay. The midpoint and the week to date anchored VWAPs right here with the overnight lows, even the overnight VPOC here. So there's a lot of trading happening right here. Looks like it wants to drop. Okay. Looks like it wants to drop. Now, we do have yesterday's lows. Still lines up with this gap. It's a big gap here, but we have the most traded price of the month down here at 67.73s. You don't want the market to go below that level. So this area has the month-to-date anchor VWAP here. We have the yesterday's lows and a gap and a demand zone and the most traded price of the month. A lot of stuff going on here. Bulls just need to defend that level. You can't break the 6673s, 6773s. That would be not good. Okay? That will not be good. So let's get into some scenarios here. Okay, you can just see the congestion in this little trading. You can see these little bars. Okay. So let's talk about the scenarios. Let's say we'll start with the bull side. Like I said, they got a lot of work to do right now. So let's get into some scenarios here. We're at overnight lows. Okay. We're almost into the 50% retracement of yesterday. 50% retracement yesterday lines up with the week-to-day anchor VWAP. So right here, if we just push down, I want to see how it reacts here. That actually, I believe is the POC of yesterday. That just means the most time spent right here. Okay. I just want to see what it does here. What do we do? Do we recover? Do a higher low? If the market opens up in parity or some strength, I believe we can start the move up here and at least go to the most traded price of the week, which is your 68.57s. Okay. And see if we can try to break that 65.67 resistance, possibly go to 68.80s. Like I said, this is going to be tough sledding. There is a lot of overhead supply here, plus this supply zone, plus this level here. I don't know how, if today's the day we break that with the low volume, and I don't know. NVDA got sold off. NVIDIA is even getting weaker as we're speaking. Like I said, Oracle, Palantir are weak. That's technology. Okay. So that's the long. Now, below this level, probably not interested in a long. Okay. Like if we start to creep back down to yesterday's lows. Okay. The only thing, I'd be honest with you, if we opened up and see, I don't think the volume's here, but if we kind of just push very quickly down here, this is the only time I would be interested. And let's say the internals never got that weak, well then I think you probably get a bounce here. And I don't know if this is in the cards. Honestly, that's probably all I'm interested in, because even if we do come up here, let's say, right, and I'm like, oh boy, this is a big level. You need to like break out, pull back, and then for me to get any confidence, but I don't have confidence that could happen today. Okay, really restrict it with my longs today. Okay, really restrict it with my longs. Now, shorts. Okay, so number one scenario for me here would be you push down, you get that love, you come up into this level. We got supply here. We got the most traded price of the week. We have yesterday's most traded price. We have the near the close. Okay. If we go up here, reject, retest, that's your short. You target overnight lows. Week to date anchor view up right here, 68.29. That's the 50% retracement of yesterday as well. Now, if the market deteriorates, all right, people who've been long since Friday afternoon are going to cover. They're going to liquidate their positions. And I think you have a good shot at falling here into value. This could be a rebalance of the market. And then at this point, it's anybody's game. Anybody's game. Right? If the goods are given up today, it's like, all right, well, we're back to value here. And it's indecisive now. Okay. You could also do a little bull trap here, which would be a rip up quick. Market doesn't have a chance to get that strong, and you break those 67s, right? Let's say you break them, and then you get a nasty wick, and then you can retest this level and be like, let's go. Now, if you break this, it's woof. I don't think that's in the cards. Okay? I don't think anything crazy is going to happen today. That's my scenarios here. Let's move on to the NASDAQ and be done with this. Same kind of structure here that I'm noticing here in the NASDAQ. Okay. So that big time resistance, right? 25768s. And you can see prices right here. We're past the 50. We're at the 50% of yesterday. Now, you have a poor high here. So this supply zone with the 25768s. You have yesterday's highs and the overnight highs. That's a breakout level. But a lot of overhead supply, just like in the ES. All right, so same thing here. We have a most traded price of the week, 25650 right here. Most traded price of yesterday. Price is below that. Price is below that. So we also have another supply zone here. So I'll just make another box here. Right? So right now, the market's saying we couldn't go higher. We're back under the most traded price. Okay. And we're at the lows. Almost hit the week to day anchor VWAP. Okay. Now, another level here. Okay. We're going to go right here. We have a demand zone. We have the week to day anchored VWAP here. We have the top of a gap. Top of a gap. Okay. And then we have the most traded price of the rolling month in the 24-hour session, 25320s. And this 253, well, that's the 253s. We can say the 253s in this area here, right? You got this demand zone. I don't know if we make it down here, but that's just the area that you don't want to break because you're going to go lower. Bulls will stay in control if you're above the 253s. Okay, so let's break it out. You can see we're just trending lower in this overnight activity, taking some of the froth off. Like I said, what I feel is we might be due for some people to go, all right, let's take some profits. Again, nobody knows, all right? And let's start the scenarios. All right, let's start with the bull case. Not that that means, let's just start with it. All right, so obviously we're at the overnight lows pretty much. Week to date anchor VWAP right here is trying to support the market. This is looking like it wants probably lower. Okay, so my feeling would be a quick move down into yesterday's lows around top of the gaps right here. This gap is your market generated information machine right here. Okay, this gap, if a gap is supportive, so if we break, let's say we break yesterday's lows, but then there's this support here around the 25441s. You get any kind of support here, that's a long. You target the most traded price of the week, 25650s. And see if we can break up into this and hold and try to find acceptance above this level to try to work up to break those 25768s. Now, if you break those 25768s, your next level is this gap. There's a gap above us to 259s. I don't know if we do that today. I'm just saying if we hold this level, this is a breakout level. Okay. Now, the other thing is if the market kind of dips and we wind up, this trade can come into fruition here. If we break into this, now this is not going to be easy. And then we pull back and start to hold and hold. This is not easy because you could chop here. And then I could be like, you know what, with low volume, I'm done for the day. But then you might mosey break here. Like I said, I'm not really loving this per se, be honest with you. Now, if we do get one of these, whoa. Yes, I think you probably could get a bounce here, but that's not a scenario I really want to lean on. All right, let's go to the short side. Oop. Let's fix that. Okay. Let's go to shorts, which I believe I'm leaning on a little more. Okay. We're down here. Now, of course, if this market just rips down, you know what? What am I going to do? It's just the way the market is, right? But if we do get a recovery, you're going to lean on this 25650. And what do? We push up. This is supply here. There's two supply zones here. If you push up and get some resistance right around here and fall, retest it, that's a short. You break those overnight lows. And I think we test yesterday's lows, which happens to be the top of the gap. Now, if this market does turn weak, meaning it's, oh boy, this is not strong, we can start to fill this gap in and go down around the 253s. And I think you might probably bounce here. Below that is, woof, you can go down to the 249s. I don't think that's in the cards with a slow volume day, but you never know. Okay. Now, if you go up higher in this session, I don't know how much I want to be a seller above this level, even though there's a lot of heavy supply here. It could work. So if we did something like this and you broke, that could be this, a lower high, and then you target this level and see if we can fall. Don't like this as much, because if we break out in this level, that means the market is not very weak. Now, this has to be neutral to a tiny strength here for me to think about that, but I'm not really excited about that as much as I am a rejection around here. Okay, that's it for me today, folks. If you enjoyed that, please smash the like button, help my channel out. That would mean a lot to me. Okay, and as always, please join me every morning. I do this, give you the market story, the news, the latest and greatest, and I give you a bunch of technical analysis. And I just gave you the long and short trading scenarios in the ES and NASDAQ futures. And if you want to join my Discord, please do. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage and click on the link and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. Hope to see you in there today. Okay, hope to see you in there today. Now, we have our plans. Remember, today's Veterans Day. No banks are open, so expect lower volumes. Expect a lower tempo, not as much tempo. Maybe ATRs are smaller, which they're probably going to be. Okay. Everybody have a great day, and if I don't see you in the room, I'll see you tomorrow.